second race of the weekend began in 2x2 formation in the spray of the wet conditions, and there was immediately some shuffling going on through the order. Philip Lindberg standing his ground against the Nogales-driven Virage Ligier. And speaking of standing his ground, Matthias Bjerre-Jacobsen, who lost 2 places in the first few corners of the race from pole. He was doing everything he could to hold off David Drew. Lindberg maybe getting a bit enthusiastic, trying to carry speed through turn 4, while Danny Soufi was trying to get back past Lawrence Herr for the race lead. Some other issues further back, Nogales drifting out wide. David Drew was on a mission though. He was in 4th position. He knew the target for that 87 crew was the number 3 car in the lead, but Matthias Bjerre-Jacobsen, a wayward and sometimes very, very staunch defensive adversary for the 87. Side by side on several occasions, and finally down into the first corner, David Drew did manage to get it done, but it wasn't for want of trying from Matthias Bjerre-Jacobsen. He fought that hard. Danny Soufi would do much the same. Once David Drew was into 3rd place, they would fight, they would collide a little bit, and David Drew would have to really chip away to get around the driver of the number 1 car. 44 having some windscreen issues. Jochen Schäfer nonetheless managed to reach the flag in 7th place. The 87 looking a little bit twitchy in the hands of David Drew as he applied the pressure, applied the throttle as best he could coming out of corners, and eventually he moved into 2nd place at the expense of Danny Soufi, and it really wasn't long at all before he was on the back of Lawrence Herr. Lawrence Herr was all on his own out there for a while, saw David Drew sail around his outside. As we got into the conclusion of that first stint of the race, Drew looked to be untouchable at the wheel of the number 87. Matthias Bjerre-Jacobsen unfortunately made a late error in the racing experience car. Ooh, nice burnout there, Zeno, as the pit stops were served. The pit window, of course, interrupted by a full course yellow, and that slightly extended the window for everybody. Unfortunately, our top 2 would try and extend it too far. 44 car ended up stranded for a while after a spin. That was the 87 into the pits just there, and unfortunately it was into the pits too late. John Brownson also pitted at the same time. Both of them would get a penalty for pitting outside of the window. There's a variety of spins as well from Brownson, from Wolfgang Peyer in these difficult conditions. Everyone was struggling for traction. But not Quentin Joseph, who put in a very good shift at the front of the order, but on the very final lap of the race, it was Danny Soufi that got past, and Zeno Ferret-Falke followed him through for 2nd place as well. Of course, Quentin Joseph would eventually have a time penalty added since he did not serve the stop-go that fell to them for missing the pit window. Ultimately demoted to 4th place was the 87, but that was still enough for 2nd in the championship. Danny Soufi, the champion, continues to set the Prototype Win Series alight with his final performance of the season, winning the race ahead of Zeno Ferret-Falke, formation flying and formation drifting for Conrad Motorsport. Philip Lindberg taking 3rd position behind those 2. Quentin Joseph eventually in 4th place after the penalty was applied. Geronimo Gomez taking 5th ahead of John Brownson, who also had a penalty, of course, for missing the window. Jochen Schäfer taking 7th place, and Wolfgang Peyer ultimately finishing at the back of the order in 8th place for racing experience.